Three big winter storms are coming to the United States over the next few days, and we are anticipating a ton of snow and ice accumulation across many areas, in addition to the threat for severe weather, which includes the return of tornadoes tomorrow and as well as Saturday. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next 7 days. We'll begin with what's happening across the country today, and we have a huge area of moisture that is currently coming from the Pacific Ocean, which is actually going to ramp up snow and as well as ice accumulation throughout the daytime today. We are watching two different areas for this moisture to go towards. The first one will be back over in the mid-Atlantic. We are expecting some heavy snowfall and ice accumulation throughout the daytime today, in addition to some snow starting to ramp up back over in the Central Plains today. But by the time we go into tomorrow, all that moisture will turn from going towards the mid-Atlantic. Instead, it'll actually go more towards the Central Plains, and that's going to create a huge winter storm from areas like the Central Plains back into the Midwest and then eventually through the Great Lakes, and this will also impact areas like the Northeast. On the flip side of things are quiet for the time being on the West Coast and along the Gulf Coast of the United States, but that will change as we go later into this week, as a huge atmospheric river event will be impacting the West Coast, in addition to eventually some severe weather tomorrow and perhaps even Saturday back over in the Southeast. Two of the three winter storms that are impacting the United States over the next week will be happening today and tomorrow. The first one is going to happen today back over in the mid-Atlantic and the Ohio Valley. We have winter storm warnings now in effect from the National Weather Service back into parts of Kentucky, West Virginia, Maryland, and back through Delaware and even southern New Jersey. Winter weather advisories in effect in a very thin stretch from northern Arkansas all the way back into parts of New Jersey. And then also our next winter storm, which will be Wednesday and Thursday, we already have winter storm warnings in effect in Kansas and Missouri, where we could see as much as 6 to 10 inches of snow in some areas, and winter storm watches are in effect for many areas in the Midwest and Michigan. By the way, a lot of these areas have yet to see that much snowfall this winter. Some areas like Iowa have seen less snowfall than Louisiana, which is just insane to say. So you'll be definitely getting some snow here over the next few days, and then winter weather advisories in effect back over in parts of Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle. Our first of two winter storms has already formed in the United States, and that is already ramping up across parts of the lower Ohio Valley and back into the mid-Atlantic, where we have heavy snowfall already falling across Kentucky, West Virginia, and even southern Illinois and Missouri. Heavy rainfall is ramping up across the southern plains and back into the Tennessee Valley. And as we get closer to lunchtime today, we are only expecting this winter storm to continue to intensify back over in the mid-Atlantic, back through parts of Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware. We'll be dealing with moderate to heavy snowfall, and even at times, this could cause some big travel impacts, so take it slow on the roadways if you're out there. Freezing rain and sleet will be happening back over in southern Virginia and even back into the Appalachian Mountains. And then eventually, as we get closer to sunset tonight, that snow is only going to continue. We will have a brief transition here to some freezing rain, even back up into parts of Maryland, as warmer air starts to filter further to the north around sunset tonight. And then eventually, as we get closer to midnight, most of that snow is moving across Long Island, New Jersey, and even extreme southern New England. And then eventually that's moving offshore, and we're not going to have to wait long for our next winter storm, because our next one is arriving right during the overnight hours Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning back over in the Central Plains. We have a lot of stuff happening here across the United States right around 4 to 5 in the morning. We have freezing rain and sleet back over in Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle, light to moderate snowfall across parts of the Central Plains in the Midwest, and even some light snow and freezing rain and sleet all happening back over in the Ohio Valley and the mid-Atlantic. Eventually, after sunrise tomorrow morning, that snow really starts to intensify, especially in parts of Missouri and Kansas, where some heavy snowfall will lead upwards of 2 inches of snow per hour in some locations, maybe even as high as 3 inches of snow per hour, which means accumulation will be stacking up very quickly. Freezing rain and sleet happening in a very narrow band across parts of Ohio and also back into parts of Oklahoma and southern Missouri. Eventually, as we get closer to around lunchtime on Wednesday, that snow is all moving into the Midwest. I personally think a lot of this will be moderate snowfall. There could be some bands of heavy snow, which means that the snow overall should be coming down at a pretty steady pace here across the Midwest around lunchtime. A little bit of snow filtering in also to parts of Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Eventually, as we get closer to 2 to 3 o'clock, that snow continues to move across the Midwest and the Great Lakes, and some snow will also be moving across parts of the Northeast. So be prepared again for some light to moderate snowfall. At times, again, heavy snowfall being possible. Freezing rain and sleet happening across parts of the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and the Northeast. And also, we are going to be watching for a risk of severe weather back in the deep south during this same exact time, which is going to be mostly Wednesday afternoon into the early evening hours. Eventually, as we go closer to the overnight hours, hours, that snow is moving mostly across Canada and into the northeast, and then it's eventually moving out as we go later into Thursday morning. And as a reminder, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We might go live tomorrow for this winter storm. I'm not entirely sure yet. We'll see what the severe weather risk looks like, and if it is elevated enough, we'll likely be going live. So make sure to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon down below so you're notified if we go live. Now, in terms of the snowfall accumulation, we are expecting quite a bit of snowfall in the mid-Atlantic and as well as the Ohio Valley. Most areas are going to expect a widespread 1 to 3 inches from Kentucky back into New Jersey and even through Long Island. However, our main bulk of snow is going to be across West Virginia, Maryland, and as well as Delaware and even southern New Jersey, where around 4 to 10 inches of snowfall will be possible in this region. If we take a closer dive into this, I think some areas like Baltimore, Maryland will pick up as much as 5 to 7 inches of snowfall. Richmond, Virginia, probably around 1 to 3, and also Charlottesville, Virginia, probably right around 6 to 9 inches of snowfall. But again, this right here is your main band of heaviest snowfall accumulation. That's again mostly around the Appalachian Mountains, back into northern Virginia, southern Maryland, and back into parts of New Jersey and Delaware. So be prepared. It's going to be a pretty big event here for the mid-Atlantic, one of the bigger ones that we've seen here in quite a while. Now, in terms of the ice accumulation, we anticipate this to be the worst back over right along the Appalachian Mountains. We do think that there will be a few locations that get as much as a half an inch of ice accumulation, which means that power outages will be possible. So have flashlights on hand just in case, and if you have a generator, have that ready to go. But in general, most areas will be anywhere from a glazing up to a 1/10 of an inch of ice accumulation, and there will also be some ice accumulation out of that next winter storm back through parts of the Ohio Valley and the Midwest as we go into Wednesday, which we'll talk more about here in just a moment. Now, in terms of the snowfall accumulation out of this next winter storm, which is Wednesday into early Thursday, we do anticipate a large swath of around 5 to 10 inches of snow from Kansas back into Missouri, southeastern Iowa, even back into northern Illinois and Michigan. So if you're anywhere in this region, make sure you're preparing here for around 5 to 10 inches of snowfall. In general, most areas in the blue will see anywhere from 1 to 5 inches. The heaviest amount of that snowfall will be again concentrated across southern Nebraska, central Iowa, and also back through parts of southern Wisconsin. Areas like northwestern Indiana, I do anticipate to see around 1 to 3 inches of snow. Highest accumulation will be near the Great Lakes, where we could get as much as 6 to 7 inches of snowfall. In terms of ice accumulation, the majority of this will be in a pretty condensed area, anywhere from the Texas Panhandle and Oklahoma, back into central and southern Missouri, and also back through the Ohio Valley. I'm not anticipating anything that's going to be, out of the ordinary. This is pretty typical, I would say, for a winter storm here across the Central Plains, Midwest, and the Ohio Valley. But in general, a glazing to a 1/10 of an inch of ice will be possible. Even the slightest bit of ice accumulation could cause some travel impacts on the roadways, especially if roads are untreated. So be prepared for that if you're anywhere in the Southern Plains or back through the Ohio Valley. And before we talk about our next winter storm, which is happening this weekend, I do want to point out that there is a risk for severe weather on Wednesday in the Deep South. There will be a lot of wind shear right along the Gulf Coast, in addition to a little bit of instability. And if there is enough instability, I could see us seeing a couple of tornadoes, and this would be mainly along the Gulf Coast. It's a very condensed risk. So overall, if you're in southern Mississippi, southeast Louisiana, back into southern Alabama, definitely stay weather aware here as we go into Wednesday afternoon and evening. Any prefrontal convection that develops, which means storms that develop out in front of a line of storms, could have the capability of producing tornadoes. A strong tornado is not impossible, but again, it's a very conditional risk on there being enough instability. This is what it looks like right around 3 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow, around 4 as well. Again, notice that there might be a few supercells out there. Any of these supercells that can get a bit more organized may produce a tornado risk, but in general, I expect this to mostly be a linear line of thunderstorms. This threat will continue into the evening hours and should diminish a little bit after midnight tomorrow night. So be weather aware. We may be going live tomorrow, as I mentioned before, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you're not already. So after this winter storm moves out on Thursday, it will be much quieter for most areas east of the Rocky Mountains on Friday. We are going to have a huge atmospheric river event impacting the Rockies and back through the West Coast, where heavy rainfall and snow will be possible. But the big thing as we go into Saturday will be the winter storm that's going to be forming. We have a couple different aspects to this winter storm on Saturday, one of which being the risk of severe weather back through the Dixie Alley in the Deep South. I wouldn't be surprised if we have an enhanced risk or even greater than that here in the Deep South, depending on how things evolve here over the next few days with the computer models, but it does look like it could be a pretty significant event if everything does come together. And then snowfall will be ramping up from anywhere, even like Oklahoma and Kansas, all the way back through the Northeast during the afternoon and evening hours on Saturday, and heavy snow will be falling across areas even in the Northeast, and some freezing rain maybe even across parts of New England during the daytime on Sunday. And then eventually as we go into Monday, that is clearing out, and I think things quiet down a little bit, but we may see another big winter storm during the middle or end of of next week back over in the southern plains or the southeast. It's too early to be talking about this, but the computer models are starting to hint at it, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that. And if anything actually develops out of it, we will be the first to let you know. Now, in terms of the severe weather threat on Saturday, we are going to have a good amount of instability here, actually as far north as areas like Kentucky and Tennessee, which is why I think we may have a greater risk of severe weather on Saturday comparatively to what we're talking about for tomorrow. I think all modes of severe weather will be on the table, including strong tornadoes. It's just going to be a matter of if we see prefrontal convection, and that's a question mark for tomorrow as well. And if we do end up seeing that prefrontal convection, it could easily be a big day, and I think Saturday has a very high likelihood of us being live on the channel. Eventually, as we go into Sunday, any risk of severe weather will be very far to the east, maybe some severe storms in Florida or back over in North Carolina, but the risk overall is much lower as we go into Sunday. Now, unfortunately, we are going to be talking about a ton of rainfall across many areas in the Ohio Valley and also back into the southeast between now and Sunday. Many areas like Kentucky, Tennessee, and back through Mississippi could pick up as much as 3 to 7 inches of rainfall, so be prepared for this. Low-lying areas and even areas that were impacted by Hurricane Helene will be dealing with some big impacts out of all of the rain that we're going to be seeing over the next 5 to 7 days. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.